Hey Nate. So, diving into this, last week I went to see your play, which we talked about this, and I was so proud of you, and I thought it was such an amazing performance. And, going into as an actor, I wanted to ask you, what's that difference between, being on camera and being on stage? Like, what are those preparations? What is that feeling, that you get as an actor when you're there?
It's interesting just because I feel like acting wise it's all the same, right? It's more of how you're expressing yourself. You're when you're in front of an audience of X amount of people, and depending on how the stage is set up, you need to take account of different types of things because that's the medium you're in. And for film, it's different, it's the audience is it's this big. Um, but preparation wise, I feel acting wise, it's really the same. You're just trying to be truthful. You're doing as much as you can to ingest all of the information and behavior and ideas that you may have, and then in the moment you you try your best to just allow it to come through as it wants to come out. But I'd say the main differences are, you got set changes, you got to remember props when you're running around the stage, you've got entrances and exits, you've got, oh my God, there's no tape that's glowing on this side of the stage. I got to remember not to trip over the sofa. Um, so the biggest difference, other than just projecting to a different size audience, is a lot of the technicalities of it. Um, and I mean, you can talk about bigger or smaller, but I don't really think that you have to be small on film. There are plenty of opportunities to be, big. But but yeah, I'd say for me it's stay truthful and act within the medium that you're given. And those are just different mediums.
Yeah, and do you think, obviously, there's, like you're saying, there's like such a preparation aspect of it, but do you think that, once you're rolling camera, it's like cut, and obviously then it's just like reset and things like that. You're in this play, and I saw you running around and continuously like kind of getting those things. Is that more more stressful, or is
Hmm.
there something interesting, fun about it, or how does it, how does that work, when it comes to that?
I mean, both film and theater are incredibly stressful in their own ways. In when you're on set and you've got a line producer or an assistant director being like, all right, we've got, X amount of money riding on this shot, and we've got three opportunities to do it, and lights coming down, versus, okay, you need to exit stage left, you need to pick up this bottle, you got to change these clothes, and you got to end up on the other side of the stage by the time that actress says this line. I think, equal parts stress on either way, but I think it's again, when it comes to preparation, I can't. I wouldn't say it's that different as an actor from like the art side of it. Um, I think it really just goes back to the rules of the game that you're playing. Theater has a certain arena or a certain set of rules, and they work in a specific way. Versus film has its own, and I think it's just being aware as the actor um, of what arena you're in. I feel like, I don't know. I think Tom Cruise. I was watching an Instagram reel about it, and he was saying how important it is for an actor to know the lens, and how what's coming across. And I've just begun to do that, and I feel like it's adding a lot to, I guess, just your confidence on set. So you don't feel like you're in the dark. And I'd say it's the same with theater, a proscenium stage versus theater in the round versus site specific, and you're in the woods and the audience is all around, or you're in a house. It's just kind of playing with the field that
So
that you're given, right? Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, I agree with you. Being aware of those surroundings. What do you use? I recently wrote an article that was talking about, specifically like when directing actors, but and I talked a lot about like the idea of playing, the giving that space for play, and how does that come across? I know we chatted a little bit after the play, and I remember you mentioning that you had so much fun. You were having so much
Yeah.
fun, and then it was like super late at night, but like I could see the energy in your eyes, and you're just like, holy shit, man, like this is great. How does that, how's that feel? How's that influence? How does that like change anything in your way of acting, when it comes to either film or play,
How does just so I understand the question, how does the idea of playing feel, or is playing different? I just what do you mean?
Yeah. The idea of just playing, just being, again, going back to that moment that you were telling me, I was having so much fun. How does that change the performance for you? How does that like in the
Oh,
moment?
okay, yeah. I mean, I would say, this is similar to what we spoke about. I get, and I tend to get incredibly nervous, as I would imagine a lot of performers or whatever musician, anybody that's going out in front of people to share something get. But yeah, I always felt like my nerves ate my lunch. I would leave an audition, or I would leave a day of shooting or doing a play and just be like, damn, if only I wasn't so nervous, I'd really have been able to do what I feel like I'm capable of. And I think with this play, it's the first time that I've found ways to channel that energy for the first time into something that's doable, where it's not overwhelming. I mean, it's kind of a longer answer because it's a bit multifaceted. I would say from like a technical point of view, all of those nerves, I've realized that I just put into the first moment of the play. I come out and I have a very specific first moment, and I know that if I vocally project, because when you get really nervous, the things that tend to happen, right? You get really tight, stops your breathing, stops the airflow, your throat starts to constrict, and then it's hard to get things out, and then you start to, the loop happens, you start to panic more, right? I've just found that if I physically express myself in an open way, if I do something with my body when I come on stage, and I make sure that my voice reaches out, and I make sure that I'm breathing in that first moment, all of those nerves have a place to go. And once they're expressed, it's like, I have someone said, like, emotion is energy in motion. So if I
Mm,
put that energy into motion some way, and as an actor, it's like I put that energy into that first moment, I try to land it on my partner or whatever I'm doing. It's kind of what I've been finding, kind of experimenting with it, is those nerves have a place to go. It's sort of like a hose. If you have a kink in the hose, you've got to
yeah.
find a way to undo it. So I would say the sense of play is coming from the fact that, my nerves, my energy that usually gets me all stuck, has a place to go. And and I would say the play also comes from the fact that, as much as I want to do a good job and I want to give a great performance, I don't know. I'm thinking less about that and more about making choices that have some sort of risk to it. So every night I have a specific set of criteria, like two or three things that I focus on to actually judge myself off of, right? Whether it's, did I land on my lines? Did I say all my lines? That could be one. Or did I feel like I physically held on to the behavior that I've created for this person? Did it sustain itself? Um, so instead of saying, was it good or was it bad, and having a general criteria of judging myself, which, if I do that, typically I'll be like, you know,
Yeah, you're always gonna
you
look
know,
at yourself, and you're always gonna be your harshest critic at the end of the day.
exactly, right? So it's like, if you give yourself something, and I think this is what a lot of actors do, it's like, we're terrible judges of our own work. because we just think, oh, am I feeling it or not most of the time? And you don't really know how it's coming across. So I would say the sense of play is just coming from putting my attention and my energy into places that I have more control over, which allows me to not think about the things I don't have control over. Um,
Yeah, no, it's super interesting because yeah, you're right. Like you don't know what you're what you're seeing. I remember a couple years ago I shot this short film and I needed the actor to give me he was this like kind of like asshole, speaking over people and like that energy and the performance, it was coming off like this, and it wasn't there yet. And I remember telling the actor, like, give me mad. Like, I want you to get pissed off. I even like started telling him, like the other character, kind of like she's saying this about you, and I remember there was like this moment of like, oh, like more mad. I mean, okay, yeah, yeah. And then he delivered that, and it was perfect, and I think it's sometimes like we think that in this case like he might be like, oh my god, like maybe I'm super furious or I look super furious, it feels like that, but kind of you were saying like then you look at, from another perspective and like no that's perfect, we in our minds we're like over exaggerating or something like that, and kind of like have to trust that. And I always say it's always better to go high, like go all in, and then it's easier to just like tone it down a little bit than going like that. So like you're saying, it's interesting to you judge yourself and you're seeing yourself but not seeing yourself, and I think that anxiety definitely kind of like can weight you down, and it could happen to anyone, right? In any sort of job, any field, anything like that. But do you feel that when the moments where you weren't challenging those emotions, that flow of things, did you feel that you were wearing like a mask? Did you feel like not being true to yourself in your performances if you weren't if you were feeling that anxiety?
no, I don't think being nervous is a bad thing, or it's something that you shouldn't have. In life, we don't judge our emotions as real or not. Like when you get upset or I don't know, you get surprised, your first thought isn't like, was that a truthful? Was that truthful? Like, was that a real? Acting. It's a fucking weird, strange thing, you know? You're. It's like It's the only art form where the artist and the instrument are the same thing. You know,
Mm,
there's no separation between them. So, and it's also the same instrument that you use in life. You know, it's not like you put on a different body
yeah.
when you get into the theater, you get on set. It's like you're using the same thing that you go in your daily life with, but theater or film, whatever performance, it's not daily life, you know? It's a very different thing. So I would say I don't I yeah, of course I have my moments where I judge myself on um is it typically for me it's like was it enough? I'm always it's never enough. So I always try to do more, but I think the when the uh, you know actor's instrument, themselves is working well, it's when whatever's coming up in the moment when you're on stage or you're in front of the camera, it's able to be used. Like I had a teacher who always described it really wonderfully. It was like an actor is like a juicer, you know? You put the carrot in and carrot juice comes out, right? You put the cucumber, you get cucumber juice, or ginger, whatever you want. And I think with an actor, it's the same thing. Like the
Mm,
amount of times I've been on stage, and for some reason, I mean, it's been less in this play, but I have moments where I'm out there and I'm in the middle of a very intense moment, and all of a sudden I'll have a thought where it's like, why the fuck am I standing like this? I must look ridiculous, you know? And if I, which I have before, before I think I've just gotten better at it, I would think, oh God, I'm not in the character, I'm not in the play anymore, I'm thinking a thought outside of the thing. That's not the case at all. It's like that thought is real in that moment, and it's giving a truthful emotion of, I don't know, embarrassment or lack of confidence in that moment, just put it into the line. Just anything that comes up, if you can just turn information into behavior or experience into behavior moment to moment, the audience will never know. They'll just see a person behaving truthfully. And I think that's one of the fallacies of it all. It's like, if I'm not thinking the thoughts of the character every single moment, then they're not going to believe me. It's like, they don't know what you're thinking. They just see a person up there behaving.
Yeah, especially, I've had this conversation with a lot of people too, the idea of that performance, that, carrying that thing, sometimes it's, you have other characters in the story, you have your environment, and obviously I think it's normal for a performer to absorb, from those dialogues with other actors and, from the environment, like to push that energy. Sometimes I feel like it's over relied on, and that's kind of one of the things, like, we look at, it's like, can you hold by yourself, if, like, for a whole, like, let's say, you're the lead in a film, can you hold that performance throughout? There's going to be scenes where it's just like you, and stick to that, and I think that's the tricky part, is maybe it's like a safety net, taking it from the environment, from other actors. And I think you did a really good job at the play of leading that. I think people actually were feeding off of you in that sense. There's key moments that I was like, holy shit, like, you're there, and like you said, like, I wasn't thinking about what is he thinking about, what is he. It was in the performance, and I don't have to overthink about it. So I found that very interesting. Like, do you feel that you said you're channeling another energy, for this play and this performance. Do you feel that change? Do you feel that you're, like, sort of like leading this, you're carrying this, and not in a pressure sort of way, but, like, does it feel different for you?
Yeah. I mean, it's the first play I've done where I'm in a position where I am leading, where I'm in every scene essentially except for one. It's the first time I've really gotten such a gift of doing something like that. And it's interesting. I think the only way I can describe it is like, um I say the only way, and then I think of 50 different ways to describe it. Um a couple of things. I'd say it's the play itself, when you're in every scene and you are written as a through line, you have the support of the play. I'm supported by the structure of the play that I'm in, and that's a huge help. So a lot of it is just be truthful to the text, let the play move me kind of like a wave, right? Um, energetically, it's funny, the more even if as I'm thinking about it right now, it's if I hit the circumstances and the progression of actions that the play is unfolding under, as the actor, if I meet those, I don't really have to think about sustaining it. I'm just kind of hooking in to the zip line that's established. I just
Yeah.
got to be prepared and enough to express the progression of those circumstances. So,
Yeah.
um, and I think it comes from a lot of things like, we have an amazing cast with this play, so everybody in each scene is a pivotal part of keeping that energy up. And I'm not necessarily, even though I'm maybe the central through line of the play, every scene isn't about Jackie. And I think I get the luxury of what, like you said, feeding off of the energy that this other character is bringing to the play in order for the story to be told in that
Yeah.
way. Um, but I think also you act off of many things. Like, eh, you can act off of anything. Like, you could act with a pole. I could act with the curtains in my studio. Like if you know how, you can have a dialogue with anything and it can affect you in any way, no matter how ridiculous or inanimate it is. So um, I would say that at the end of it all, the energy really comes from just meeting the progression of the circumstances and feeding off of the other actors. And I'm lucky enough in this particular experience that I get so much from them. Um, but yeah,
Yeah,
Jackie is definitely having to carry a certain amount of weight because of what's written on the page. And it's a workout. It's definitely a workout. I At the end of every play, I'm just like, you know, I'm drenched.
no, I mean, yeah, and it's that like putting the trust in, that like you're saying, like you can bring the elements and change, like the actor is always smart enough to like, hey, we need to shift something, how can you make this work, and you're already in that world. So, and we talked about relationships, obviously with the actors and stuff like that. So with your experience, from with the director, what's the kind of dynamic and relationship that you look for when working with a director in a film?
In a film, I would say in general, whether it's film or theater, I think it's someone who has to make what they're making. I think that's the most enjoyable thing. It's like I just want to be on board with someone who is incredibly passionate about the thing that they're putting together. Like that, I'm hired to be a part of a director's dream or their vision, you know?
Yeah,
And I'd say when I'm brought onto a project and the director is like, voracious about the vision that they want to accomplish and they paint that picture for you, it's like being on a sports team with someone, they
yeah,
want it. It's like pass me the ball. I want to
yeah,
score. And that's infectious, So I would say the first thing is just someone who is absolutely batshit crazy about what they're doing. That's the most fun because then it's infectious to everybody around. They're the captain, So if I'm signing up to play on a team, I want the captain to, you know, I'm looking for Tom Brady, right? Like I'm looking for a leader. Um, and
yeah. You want people there. I mean, yeah, and that's a process. Even like, I mean, it's great that you say that because there's so many layers to it, and obviously like people are so passionate about doing it, and I mean even for young filmmakers, like I had for me it was like very weird, or I guess like I struggled with when you're on that film set and the idea that everyone there is there to, like you're saying, they're there to realize like your dream, your
your
vision,
vision, yeah, yeah.
and you're
Does it
like,
feel like
holy,
a lot of pressure for you? Yeah.
yeah. I mean pressure. And not even the pressure in the sense of like, oh, we need to build this, because I know like everyone who's there, you obviously surround yourself with the best team, the people that you trust, the people who understand that. But it's like this. It took me a long time for me to like accept the captain role, like you were saying, or
Yeah.
say like I'm the captain, like it always felt like this. It's like this ego thing, like I'm the boss, I'm the. And I think maybe it stems from like I always had these like you know my jobs before like going to film, that there were everyone like this creative like egos, and then they have to be a voice, and it was never or very few times it was about the work. It was more about
Mm,
like themselves personally, like, oh, I need to shine, or I need to make an
yeah.
opinion. And they're just trying to impose something instead of like taking a step back and be like, why are we making these decisions? Like, does this help the product at the end of the day, the project, or is just like you just like saying shit just to say shit, So I think I was linking that, or not trying to be that sort of like leader, and I didn't know how to navigate that for a long time. But you're saying like, and then you realize, and then you talk to people, like to actors and to people on set, and someone told me this the other day, even the same thing, like they're there for you. They're there because like they fucking believe in the project, and they're like excited, and you're like, oh man, and then you realize like shit, like So it's a beautiful process because like once you connect with people in that way, and they believe, I think that's the biggest thing, you know, for a director. You can have the best script, the best vision, the best like, mentality, whatever, all these things, but at the end of the day, if people don't trust you, like you're not going anywhere.
I
Your
mean,
project.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It was going in and out. Can you hear me?
No, 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 yeah.
Um, I was just gonna say, like from the times that we've worked together, I think the balance that you have is really what I'm speaking about. Not to brown nose, but like it's that balance between being able to be in a leadership position and make decisions and see the whole field of play and make decisions from an elevated space of seeing where you want it to go. But also, if you're passionate, like it's about caring. When you care about it, you'll go further. You'll dig deeper to really find the essence of what it is you're trying to express. And I think that's been my main. I don't know. Fucking hate it when I'm working with someone and they are satisfied. And I know that I definitely can go maybe too far sometimes where it's like, we've got it, just relax. Um, I would say that the worst experiences I've had when I've worked on a film or a play is when the director has an idea, and when they reach that idea, they don't want to go any further. They're like, no, no, this is it. And when actors or anybody else brings them something and says, "Hey, but can we? I think there's more to get out of this moment. Can we just play with this a bit?" When you get a response of a no to that, that's crushing for any creative because you're there in order to go down that rabbit hole of like, what are we not seeing? Because so much of it is subconscious, so much of the really rich um, quality of whatever you're making is not something you really see. It's something where you're like, I feel like I need to be over there in this scene. And I don't know why. And I need to be holding this key. And I don't know why, but let me just do it and let's see what happens. And when a director is able to be like, go for it. Let's do it. If that's how you feel, let's do it. And then maybe it doesn't work, but the director's like, okay, it didn't fully work, but I like you going there because then if you go here, kind of like our whole discussion about the end of the play, it was from your perspective, you gave me um these little tidbits that connected so many different things. But if you don't care enough to go past that original sense of like, okay, we got the shot, let's move on. And I get it, it's a business and there's money and time involved. But I would say that's what I look for in a director is the balance between those two.
No, and it's interesting. The other day I saw a video of Christopher Nolan talking about him directing actors and like saying that actors like don't treat actors like they're dumb. Like he's saying specifically, maybe hey, we have X amount of time. You only have two shots left, daylight, whatever it is, and we need to like shoot it here, and he was saying that sometimes, you'll tell an actor, so, we're thinking that maybe the character would like to be next to the window or
Mm,
and just talk to them like fucking people, like, hey, this is
yeah.
this is happening, like can you make this work? Can the character be here? Can you work in that? And it was interesting because it's true, like you have to there are an ideal world, yeah, you can do as many takes as you want and that, but sometimes you are limited to the time, but you definitely have to create that space for any artist, I think, to give it that chance, that idea of like what they're coming from, or just like that moment. I think there's another one
It's
like
it's like sorry, just you're
no,
saying it's there was a teacher that where I first went to school for acting at the Strasberg Institute, and I love Lee Strasberg. I mean, I've got his, I was going through shit yesterday. I just think, one of those brilliant teachers. Um, but one of the guys that he was in the group theater with when they in the 50s was a famous director named Elia Kazan. Um, and he did, On the Waterfront, um, East of Eden, um, a bunch of things. But he he would talk about, it's the way that you talk to the actor, right? It's asking questions and posing kind of like riddles for the actor to solve actively instead of telling them what to do. I think it's really interesting when a director is able to, they don't go A to B they go like A to S to get the actor to get to B. And it's like, it's hard to even explain. I've had to experience it a few times, but it's like it's an indirect route instead
Yeah.
of trying to tell them directly where to go. It's like allowing how do you say it? Like, the director creates a space for real moment to moment things to happen that still fall within the needs of satisfying the film to tell the story. And that to
Yeah.
me is like, when a director can do that, it's like, that's a magician, And I mean, Strasberg talked about, he said, I would direct an actor and I'd say, I just need you to get to the box of cigarettes by this line. How you do it, completely up to you. I
Yeah.
just need you there, And I think it's a lot about language, and that's the hard part for a director, or the fun even of, each actor's different. Each actor is like a little science experiment. If you put too much of, this in that one actor, it's gonna blow up. But if you put
Yeah.
the same thing in a different one, they're gonna have the realization that allows them to fulfill the scene objective.
Yeah, and I think that comes along with the preparation, the communication. Like you need to have this sort of like relationship where and I agree with you, I know like everyone works differently, but the first thing I always tell people on sets, or when I'm doing some sort of creative project, it's like this is an open, safe space, communication, like everyone has a voice, everyone speak up, like there's none of that bullshit, and I say like you might not take everything that is being said, but there's been so many times where like some little thing just sparks and you're saying like getting to A to B. And I think maybe that's kind of like the meaning, right? Like we're so focused on, I mean, we have to get to B, like that's the thing. But when you go through that like detour, what are you going to pull from that detour? What are those things that can like, you're absorbing and then you get to B with this whole other experience, and to your point of the cigarette box, like what's in between you at the door and that cigarette box that
Yeah.
can make that experience like, you're gonna smash something, or you're gonna like, and that's
Who knows?
but but you definitely have to create that space where you feel that you can, even with the limitations of the timing and the day and everything, and that's why the idea of preparation or rehearsals, like get the thing done when you can like, okay, you know what, we need A to B, but we did it, we have a great thing, let's be able to push it and just play play
I
play
mean,
play
I've been doing this like 11 years now, and I'm just fucking scraping the surface of understanding, how to do it. Like,
Yeah.
I, it's, I'm in, I'm, I'm saying thank you every morning because that fire has been reignited because I've had some discoveries where it's like, oh, that's what I've been trying to figure out for the past 5 years. And it's like, I don't know, one of those sports like surfing where the progression of learning is such a nice long curve. And sometimes, for me, it's like I want that instant gratification. But um, yeah, man, I would say the biggest thing, and we've talked about it a couple times, is preparation. Like, what really is preparation? Um, and I think I'm only understanding what preparation is now because I realized that, like you're saying, creating a safe space, I think for the actor, the safe space is when the actor feels, or at least for me, when I feel like I've embarrassed myself. Like once I fuck up, once I go too far and I allow myself to do it, I'm free. It's like I need to fall on my face a
Yeah.
lot. And there are exercises that help you do that. But I think Joaquin Phoenix said it. I was recently listening to her. He was like, I purposely go out and I tell my director, like, I'm gonna fuck up. Like, I'm gonna try some shit that's probably not gonna work, but I've got to do it so that I can get that feeling off of me of like having to do it right. Because that's the downfall, I think, for anybody is, with a film or with a play, even. I think with a film, it's an easier example. It's like the film is written, right? There's the text that you write. That's stage one. Then it's written again when you're actually filming it, you know? And then it's written a third time when you're editing it. So that film is written three times throughout the process of its birth. And I feel like um it's so easy when you get on set to try and kind of copy and paste what you thought while you were writing it and preparing it and scouting the locations and rehearsing with the actors. It's like if we could just pick up that house and then just put it here, then we're good. And I think there are parts that works, but for the most part, it's like you need to be okay with taking the risk of rediscovering the whole film while you're shooting it in many ways, because that's when the magic happens. It's the balance between those pieces that are, you have those, like you're building a fence. You've got your fence posts, and then you're gonna lay those horizontal pieces as you're filming. And um, just as an example, I would say even in this play, I I have to. There's a scene I have to be really high in, like I just smoked a joint, and I was having a really hard time for some reason getting the sensation and having it sustained through the scene. And it was freaking me out. I was in my head like, oh God, I look like an idiot. Like this isn't gonna work. I'm not high. And I was backstage because I have one scene in between where I'm not on. It's the only scene I'm off, and I get like 3 or 4 minutes to be backstage and kind of prepare to go on high. And I was standing there in the moment, like clock's ticking, and I'm thinking, shit, like this isn't gonna work. Like this is bad. I'm gonna look like an idiot. And all of a sudden, for some reason, I don't know why, but I just started imitating the actor that was on stage
Mhm.
to my castmates who were backstage, and I was just sort of doing a caricature of them, and we're all kind of silently laughing back there. And that laughter opened me up. And for some reason, I put my shirt over my head and my ears were all sticking out. Like I think you saw that moment when I came out with my jersey over my head. I found that right before I went on stage because all the preparation I had done was not working. I was cold
Yeah.
as ice. And I think it's one of my favorite moments of the play now because it was something that was discovered in the heat of the moment when something wasn't working. And that's a lot of the time when the magic happens, right? It's like nothing's working. We've got to figure something out. Where's it going to come from?
Yeah, no, it's yeah, and I absolutely agree with you. I mean, even the idea of that, I used to do something, or I used to call it for a period of time. I did a lot of photography, and working with like models, and sometimes like people weren't professional models, and it was funny because I'd always say this, like the first 30 minutes we're just gonna shoot, and I called it the warm up, where people were kind of like more stiff, and they're starting to move, and there's a thing that always happened, and you could see when I was like kind of camera, I was like, yeah, fuck, and I'm just like fucking shutter, 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 shutter.
Firing them off. Yeah.
Yeah, because you see this moment where the person gets into that flow, and obviously, like this is, I think it happens with all these different like performances, but like the person like finally feels their body in their own unique way, and then these things, obviously like it's a little less uncomfortable maybe if they weren't used to it, but you always find that thing for it, and I think that's they're them testing, like yeah, great, let's try this. And I never like to give a lot of direction either because I want that to flow, and that person to get in that mindset. and it's something, and it's just something so great because it always happens, and at one point you're just like, ah. and I think
But
you
you
have
can
to let
never make it happen, right? You never know when it's going to happen. You can't
it out.
force it. You just have to trust that if you
Yeah,
do the things and you follow
you have
the
to,
impulses, right?
I think it's I think it falls back to what we said earlier. Like you have to create a space where the people feel that that side of them can also come out, and it's something that you can't control. You can't control it. You can prepare for it. Um, you have to be ready for change. Right now I'm doing a shot list. I have 137 scenes, and I'm doing a shot list of each thing because I'm preparing for that. It might not be exactly what that. I mean, it's giving me an idea. Like I want how to shoot this, how to do that, but I
Sure.
know that the location might be different, or we may not be able to do that. How do we adapt? How do we and then it's in that moment that you refine that. So,
How do you find that? I mean, 'cause I feel like what we're talking about is like the creative state, right? Just getting yourself into the creative state. And for every artist, I think it's very different for anybody, and it's available to anybody, not just like it's not artists. I think, you find it in religion, you find it in spirituality, whatever. Um, but for you, how, as a director, is that something you think about before you go on set? Like when you're preparing yourself for the day, do you need to get yourself into a creative state so that you can, if the muses are speaking to you, getting yourself into a space where you can hear them?
um, no, I mean, for me, it's interesting because when I create, or the moment creation, I'm very isolated. Like I don't think I'm very good at creating in group. Maybe there's specific things, maybe like writing or things like that. Like I need to be in my head. I do like to go on walks and like literally just like my mind. It's hard for me to find that voice. It's very like it's a very introverted like process for me when it comes to that. But when it comes to going on set, I think I am so pro preparation, like sometimes to the point that it's like a little crazy, it's a
Hmm.
lot of work. But I don't. But again, I don't see it as like a structure. Like this is how it needs to be done. It's more like we have this. If shit goes sideways, or like I think the more you prepare, the more you can allow yourself to allow these moments to happen. Like and I don't. I guess like I don't try to find like, okay, I'm gonna be inspired today. It's more like, okay, today we're doing this, bam bam bam, and I rely on the energy. I think I absorb a lot of that. It's like, oh, you know
Hmm.
what, today, like, you said something like this, or oh man, I really like that you're doing this. Like, hey, let's try that. But it comes down to communication. It's like what are people bringing? Because I think I already did my job. Like I go on set, like things are done. I'm going to direct you, but I want people to bring their stuff too. And we'll tweak. But that's the magic of things. Like an actor's doing their job. Let them do their job.
Hmm.
Um, so I think that the inspiration comes way beforehand. I've already built this world. I've already done this thing. Uh, my friend, it's not that she makes fun of me, but she's always like, it's like, dude, you think of like the fucking nail polish that the character's gonna wear, because it's like blah blah blah,
Sure, it's important
I
for
think
you, yeah.
I think everything serves a purpose as to like why. Um, but I think the inspiration, I feel like it comes from the people, but you have to create those lines of communication to be able to like not just like me feed off an actor, but like I think an actor or any sort of like the crew, like I think I always like take that like, oh, that's great, like that's great, like people tell stories, people like we the life we live is where we're taking our inspiration from, at the end of
Hmm.
the day. So I think for me, the inspiration or the muse and all that stuff comes way before, and I go on set with this like
More of an
mindset,
execution mindset.
execution with the flexibility,
Listening. Yeah.
you know. So so yeah, you have to, and I think the more films I make, the more experience you'll get, and things you'll always like change. Every chapter is it's gonna be different. Um, but and like I said, you've been doing this for a long time. Like, what kind of advice would you tell up and coming actors? When they're watching us right now, they're seeing this, and someone you just said you're just scratching the surface of things. Like, what kind of advice would you tell people in general?
Oh, hmm.
Don't do it.
That's a really good question. I mean, I think there's a few things. One is that you're probably better than you think you are. Just let yourself be as good as you are. The nervousness, the not feeling good enough, those are all ways that I feel like, at least for me, it's easy to keep yourself in a state of comfortability versus really pushing past that line to see where your talent actually is. I think you really only know where your talent actually is when you start to fall on your face,
Yeah,
because then oh, I can't hit the jumper from 30 feet. I can hit it from 20. But so
yeah,
okay, gotta shoot from 30. So I would say you're probably better than you think you are. Um, so be nicer to yourself. Definitely be nicer to yourself. Remember that so much of why you may or may not book certain things has nothing to do with you or your talent. Remember that it's a process and it takes time. And if you show up daily, and you keep putting time into discovering more about the work and working with people and getting yourself those repetitions, just getting reps, it's inevitable that you will get better. I promise you, if you just act and you put yourself in every situation you can to act in different ways with different characters, ones that feel so far from you, ones that feel close, you will get better. You won't be able to help but get better. And just don't be, I say this to myself as much as anybody else. Everybody's actually rooting for you. I don't think that there's people really plotting your downfall. And if they are, let
yeah,
them, that, they're spending their energy somewhere when they could be spending it on themselves. But if, if you're sitting down and someone's listening to this right now, just write down the 5 things that you really want to do that you've just been afraid to do, and have them on a piece of paper, and then just start to knock them off and your confidence will increase. So I think it's just about action. Just trust yourself, keep doing, put yourself in positions to get more repetitions, and know that by doing it you're going to get better. It's
yeah.
yeah.
No, it's that. I mean, it's like the cliche saying, like more, the more experience you get, the more. But it's you say trying, see what your limits are, see where it can take you, see what are those things that you can change or you can improve, or we're not born perfect and like we're gonna do this. Like even the most talented people, they have to work on that craft, right? They need to try new
That's
things.
why they're talented. They
Yeah,
work. They work with amazing people who show them how to get better. And um, yeah,
yeah,
there is no perfect way to do any of it. Um, and it's so cliche, but yeah, try as best as you can to enjoy it. I mean, I just went through a period of hating acting for a while, because it didn't feel like I wanted it to feel. But then you get your legs back, and you find it. Something will find it if you just keep chugging along. Um, and
yeah.
give
It's
yourself time to rest, right? Like
yeah, good one.
integrate, man. When you do so much and you don't, it's like you read 100 books one after the other, back to back to back. What are you really remembering? Take some time,
Yeah,
integrate what you've learned, and let your body absorb it, And again, you're probably better than you think you are. I'm would be sure of it.
No, I like that. And I'll ask you a last question, a little
Yeah.
more per do you still love it? Do you I mean, there's ups and downs, there's there's frustrations, there's things, there's like learning, there's not learning, there's but do you still love it?
I love it. I love it in a way that I have never really loved anything. I think it's that unconditional thing, man. I love it so much because I have my moments of hating it so much. It's like it's it's like your pet. It's like your favorite pet, right? It's like, they piss on the carpet and and you're just like, I literally just washed that. Um, but then they roll on their back and 5 minutes later with their feet in the air and you're like, God, you're the cutest thing in the world. And I think it's the same thing. It's like you got to have both sides, and I think that's what allows you to keep doing it. But yes, I love it so much. I keep getting so much out of it. It is, I don't know, I couldn't really tell you why I love it. I came upon it in such a, you know, backdoor way. I wasn't like a kid who thought I'm gonna be an actor. This is what I want to do. It it kind of happened in a strange way, and I started just kind of doing it, and then one day it was just this door flung open, and it opened me up to just being honestly just a more present, rounded human. Um,
Yeah,
so I credit it with a lot. I think it's a beautiful, strange, um,
yeah, process and
something, man, something. But yeah,
I
long answer, long. I love it. I very
I love
much do.
that. I love that, and it's that at the end of the day, this especially this career, this industry, for all the people like actors, filmmakers, the thing that will keep you pushing forward is passion. Is passion, is love for it, is like Nate was saying, taking the time to absorb, to learn, to grow, and there's no other way, like we all want to rush, we all want to get there, we all have our goals, but I think when you take a look at it and and see how it's changing you, it's gonna also change your work, and every scene you do, every screenplay you write, whatever it is, like it makes the next thing better. So
Hey man, I won't be naive about it. I mean, like, when you make a nice little bag, it's helpful when you can, when you've got responsibilities or you've got kids or you've got, whatever it is that you're responsible for and it pays those bills. That's important, man. And but yeah, I would say, thank you. Thank you for doing this because one of the biggest things I feel like keep any artist going, at least in my experience, has just been community, right? Like being able to sit down and have a conversation with someone. I have rehearsal after this. I'm gassed up. I'm ready to go. I just spoke about something I love with someone I love, and I think, people when they're out there and you start to feel down about, oh, shit's not going my way, just go and do the thing. Go surround yourself with some people. Go watch a movie. uh
yeah,
I don't know, make a nice meal for yourself, do something creative that you can express yourself through. But yeah, um none of this happens in isolation, right? We need each other in order to create, and um part of the point of it is so that we can go through go through it together. Go see a movie with somebody, go make a play with somebody, read a friend's a scene, whatever it is. So thank you for putting this together, I'm really appreciative that you created a space for us to just be able to chat.
no, thank you for being here and sharing these thoughts, and at the end, the purpose of this is to get people inspired. They might have questions. For everyone who is watching, I'm going to leave all of Nate's social links and information and stuff like that, so you can follow his journey. And yeah, man, again, thank you so much for being here,
Yeah,
and
thanks, brother.
we'll keep we'll keep moving forward, right?
Sounds good, man. I'll see you soon.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much, man.
Thank you.